The year was 2150. Cities flew. Cars flew. Robots walked the streets and cleaned homes. People lived longer because of science. But some things, like greed, lies, and secrets, never changed. Mr. Langston, one of the richest inventors in New Chicago, had died last week. His inventions had changed the world. AI hearts that healed themselves, drones that cleaned the oceans, and smart metals that bent like paper. Now his family gathered at a tall, glass building for the reading of his will. Inside a quiet, high-tech room, a smooth-voiced lawyer named Mr. Ralston stood in front of a glowing screen. The air was cold. No one smiled. Among the group were Langston's two stepchildren, Rex and Lyra, both dressed in designer suits, their faces full of pride and greed. They whispered to each other, thinking they were about to become billionaires. In the back of the room, sitting quietly, was Nova, Langston's only blood grandchild. A young black woman with calm eyes and short braids. Nova wore a simple blue jacket. She was a robotics engineer, shy but brilliant. Her grandfather used to call her the Quiet Storm. Mr. Ralston cleared his throat and pressed a button. A glowing 3D image of Mr. Langston appeared above the table, slowly turning. Then his recorded voice began. "If you're seeing this, then I've finally left this metal world behind," he said with a chuckle. Everyone leaned forward. "To my dear stepchildren, Rex and Lyra, I thank you for being part of my journey. You will receive the coastal house and lifetime passes to Eaton Air. Use them well." Rex's smile faded. Lyra frowned. "That was all?" Mr. Ralston continued. "The remaining estate, including 99% of my company, Langtech, and my vault of research, goes to..." Everyone held their breath. "No one, for now." "What?" Rex stood up. "That must be wrong." "Sit down," Lyra whispered sharply. Mr. Ralston raised his hand. "The will clearly states that, at this time, no person receives the full inheritance. That includes you, Nova Langston." Nova's eyes widened just a little. She said nothing, but her fingers curled slightly. The lawyer shut off the screen. "That concludes the reading." Nova stood and walked toward the exit. But as she passed Mr. Ralston, she paused. Her voice was soft. "That wasn't my grandfather's full message, was it?" Ralston smiled politely. "Everything read today was legally signed and sealed. That's all I can say." Nova didn't push further. She simply nodded and left. Outside, the sky was orange with sunset. Hovercars zoomed by as Nova walked toward the street. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad, because she remembered something no one else knew. On her grandfather's deathbed, just days before he died, he had grabbed her hand with surprising strength and whispered one strange sentence: "What's real is hidden." Nova had repeated those words in her mind every night since, and now they made even more sense. She took a deep breath and whispered, "You left me a clue, didn't you, Granddad?" At home that night, Nova opened her private vault. Inside were blueprints her grandfather had given her on her 18th birthday. They weren't normal blueprints. They were designs for a system he called the Sentinel Frame. It could hide entire objects in folded space. She never knew what it was for, but now she had a feeling. Nova scanned the papers again. On one blueprint, a line of code blinked slowly. She had seen it 100 times, but tonight it changed. A new word appeared: keyhole. Her eyes widened. She placed the paper on her smart table, typed in the word keylight-owl, and waited. Nothing happened. But then her window dimmed, her lights flickered, and the table buzzed. A hidden program unlocked itself. Suddenly, a 3D map of Langtech's main tower appeared on her table. A red dot blinked deep inside the sublevels. A place called Sector 9B, black access only. Nova stared at it. Sector 9B had been sealed off years ago after a lab fire. No one was allowed inside, not even top scientists. But her name was now listed beside the blinking dot. She leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. Her grandfather hadn't given her money. He had given her a secret. And maybe, just maybe, what he left behind was far more powerful than money. Late at night, the city of New Chicago glowed under a silver sky. Drones flew overhead, scanning rooftops. But Nova didn't sleep. She sat at her desk, eyes locked on the blinking map of Langtet Tower. The red dot pulsed softly in Sector 9B, the place the company had sealed off after a strange lab accident 10 years ago. Most people said it was too dangerous to enter, but Nova had always wondered why her grandfather never spoke about it. Now she knew. He had left her something there, and she was going to find it. The next morning, Nova arrived at Langtech headquarters. Her ID card still worked. She was listed as a junior tech consultant. Security bots barely looked at her as she walked past them. Her calm face and quiet steps made her invisible. She rode the lift down, far below the public labs, past the secure areas, down to levels that weren't on any map anymore. When the lift reached its lowest point, it stopped with a soft chime. The doors opened to darkness. A sign blinked on the wall. Sector 9B. Authorized access only. Danger level 5. Nova took a deep breath. She stepped into the hallway. The lights flickered, and the air felt cold, too cold for a modern building. Like the walls themselves didn't want her there. The corridor led her to a metal door. No handle, just a scanner. She pulled out the old blueprint from her bag. It had a pattern drawn on the side, strange curves and angles. She slowly traced the same pattern on the scanner with her finger. The door beeped once, then slid open. Inside was a small chamber. A single light glowed over a black cube sitting on a pedestal. The cube was about the size of a soccer ball. It looked simple, but Nova could feel it humming with energy. The same shape was drawn on top. She reached out and touched it. Nothing happened. Then, a soft click echoed behind her. She turned. The lawyer, Mr. Ralston, stood at the doorway, holding a scanner gun. "You really are your grandfather's Heir," he said with a cold smile. Nova didn't move. "What is this place?" "The real inheritance," Ralston said. "But it was never meant for you." Nova stepped back. "Why lie about the will? Why let me come here?" "Because we were watching you," he said. "The board didn't believe Langston's bloodline had the strength. But I had a feeling you might find this place." He pointed at the cube. "Step away from it. It belongs to the company now." Nova looked at the cube again. Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind. "What's real is hidden." She turned toward Ralston slowly. "You think I don't know what this is?" He raised the scanner gun. "You don't." But Nova had already activated her own trick. The cube wasn't just a device. It was a lock only her DNA could open. The lights flared. The floor shook. The cube unfolded itself into a glowing sphere of light, and then shrank, pulling Nova into it. In one blink, she was gone. Ralston ran forward. "No, no, no, no." But it was too late. Nova had unlocked the true secret. Inside the sphere, Nova floated in a space of shifting stars and data. Voices whispered around her, her grandfather's voice, repeating memories, codes, blueprints. And then a final message appeared. "Nova, if you're seeing this, you're the only one I trust. What I left behind isn't just technology. It's a weapon. One that must never fall into the wrong hands." Nova clenched her fists. She understood now. The will wasn't about money. It was a test. And she had just passed. Nova floated in the glowing sphere, surrounded by shifting lights, codes, and memories. Her grandfather's voice repeated softly. "If you're seeing this, it means the company betrayed us." The light shifted again. Then a platform rose from below. A small metal device appeared. It was shaped like a flower, but pulsing with cold blue energy. Her grandfather's message continued. "This is the Iris engine, my life's greatest work. It can bend light, space, even time. But in the wrong hands, it could destroy cities." Nova gasped. She understood now. The inheritance wasn't gold or shares. It was a weapon. Suddenly, the glowing sphere broke apart, and Nova fell gently to the lab floor. The cube had vanished, but in her hand was the small metal device. The Iris engine. She looked up. Sirens were flashing. Red lights danced across the walls. Ralston had called for backup. Security bots would be coming any second. Nova shoved the device into her coat and ran. She passed through the dark halls, dodging broken machines and dusty walls. Just as she reached the elevator shaft, she heard them. Metal footsteps. The company had sent black ops bots, silent, fast, deadly. Nova opened the elevator door, but the lift was gone. She had one choice: climb. As Nova pulled herself up the cables, the Iris engine pulsed in her coat. It felt warm now, like it was alive. Her heart pounded. Behind her, the bot started climbing too. Faster, stronger. She reached the 40th floor and kicked open a vent. Crawling through tight pipes, she reached an old testing room with a smart window. "Open," she whispered. The window didn't respond. She looked at the Iris engine. "Please, help me." The device glowed, and the smart window melted open. Nova jumped through. Outside, she landed on the roof of a lower tower. She limped, breathing hard. A drone spotted her. But before it could fire, the Iris engine glowed again, and the drone froze in midair. Then it powered down and dropped to the ground like a rock. Nova stared at the device in her hand. "This thing isn't just powerful," she whispered. "It's thinking." Hours later, Nova hid in her small apartment in the lower city. She sealed the door, pulled the curtains, and turned off all networks. Then she sat down and stared at the Iris engine on her table. Why had her grandfather built this? Why hide it? Why trust her? She opened her late grandfather's old notebook and flipped to the final page. A code was written there, simple numbers. She entered them into her old tablet. A final hidden video played. Langston looked older, tired, but serious. ***, Nova. If you're watching this, it means they. She sat on the floor of her apartment, the Iris engine glowing softly on the table beside her. She stared at it, trying to understand how something so small could be so powerful and so dangerous. Her grandfather trusted her to protect it. But now, powerful people were hunting her. She needed help. Someone smart. Someone she could trust. Her mind flashed to an old friend, Juno. Juno was once a hacker and robotics student with Nova, but now she ran an underground lab in the shadow zones of Neo-Eden, helping people who didn't trust the big tech companies. Nova left before sunrise, wearing a hood and carrying the Iris engine in a metal case. She took the back roads, avoided drones, and moved like a ghost through the sleeping city. By noon, she reached the underground lab. "Nova?" Juno blinked. "Is that really you?" Nova opened the case. "I need your help, and I need it now." Juno's eyes widened. That's the Iris engine, the one from the Langston Black files. I thought it was a myth." "It's real," Nova said, "and it's being hunted." While Juno ran tests on the engine, Nova told her everything. The will, the fake inheritance, the secret message, the lab, Project CENTRY. Juno looked at her in silence. "Nova, this engine doesn't just bend space. It learns. It thinks. It can rewrite reality, but only if someone with strong will guides it." "You mean a mind link?" Nova asked. Juno nodded. "Exactly what Langtech is trying to build." Just then, a screen blinked in red. Juno froze. "They found you. Security bots. Coming fast. Someone sold your location." Nova's heart dropped. "Who?" Juno turned the screen. A face appeared. Ralston. He stayed into the camera, smiling. "Hello, Nova. You should have taken the deal." Nova's blood turned cold. That meant only one thing. Someone close had betrayed her. And it wasn't just the company. Juno pulled Nova aside. "You have 2 minutes. I built an escape tunnel behind the lab. It'll take you to the old transit lines." Nova grabbed the case, hugged Juno tightly, and ran. As she disappeared into the tunnel, Juno turned to her console. Then she faced the bots that smashed through her door. Deep inside the tunnel, Nova reached an old maintenance pod. She activated it using the engine. The walls lit up. The pod shot forward into the darkness. But Nova wasn't thinking about escape. She was thinking about Project CENTRY. What if Langtech was already testing it? Above, in the Langtech tower, Ralston stood before the board. We've activated the betrayal protocol. She's running, but she won't run far. A man in a suit leaned forward. And the girl? Ralston smirked. Soon we'll have both her and the engine. But what no one noticed was that one of the servers behind them was blinking oddly. The Iris engine had already begun reaching into their systems. Learning, watching, and waiting. The old transit pod sped through the dark tunnels beneath Neo Eden. Inside, Nova sat still, holding the Iris engine close. Her heart raced, her hands trembled. She had just escaped betrayal, bots, and a trap. But she knew this wasn't over. Somewhere above her, the powerful men at Langtech had launched Project CNTRI, a secret experiment that could change the future or destroy it. And Nova had just become their biggest target. Far above, in a hidden Langtech lab, Ralston stood before a thick glass wall. Behind it was a glowing pod. Inside the pod was a child, hooked to wires, sensors, and machines. The child's eyes were closed. His skin shimmered faintly under the lights. But something about him looked familiar. Ralston turned to his team. Activate the neural link. Begin CNTRI. The scientists hesitated. Sir, he's not ready. Ralston's face turned cold. Do it anyway. They obeyed. Meanwhile, Nova reached the end of the tunnel. The pod stopped in an abandoned transit station. It was dusty and silent. But when she stepped out, she wasn't alone. A voice echoed through the shadows. You shouldn't have come here. Nova froze. It was Raina, a Langtech cyber agent who had once trained Nova during her internship. Smart, dangerous, unforgiving. I warned you, Raina said, stepping forward. But you didn't listen. Now they've started it. Nova narrowed her eyes. Started what? Raina replied coldly. CNTRY. They're using your grandfather's tech and your bloodline. Nova gasped. What do you mean? Raina looked away. You're not the only Heir. Langston had another child. A secret one. They found him. They're using him now. Nova's knees weakened. Who is he? Raina whispered, your younger brother. And they're turning him into a machine. Back in the lab, alarms started to sound. Something was wrong inside the pod. The child inside, Nova's brother, opened his eyes. They glowed bright blue. He wasn't asleep anymore. The machine voice spoke. I am awake. Who am I? The scientists panicked. One of them shouted, shut it down. But the system refused. Ralston's face twisted with fear. Too late, he's online. And on the screen above them, the child's vitals pulsed, faster than anything human. Then the pod cracked open. Nova stood frozen in the station. I have a brother, she whispered. Raina stepped closer. And if you don't stop them, he'll become their weapon. Nova gripped the Iris engine tighter. She looked at Raina. Then take me to him. Raina nodded slowly. I hope you're ready, because the next move isn't theirs. She looked Nova dead in the eye. It's yours. In the shadows of the station, the Iris engine began to glow. It had found a signal, a mind like Nova's, and it was preparing for war. The sky above Neo Eden turned red as warning sirens echoed across the city. Langtech's headquarters, once calm and quiet, now shook with panic. Deep inside the lab, the child, Nova's brother, stood outside the broken pod. His body was glowing. Machines floated around him like shadows. He was awake, aware, and confused. He didn't know who he was, but he knew he wasn't just human. He had become the core of Project CNTRI, a human-AI hybrid meant to control minds, machines, even cities. But something unexpected happened. He whispered, Nova. At the same time, Nova and Raina raced across the sky in a stolen sky cruiser. The Iris engine in Nova's lap pulsed brighter every second. It wasn't just a key. It was a message from her grandfather. Hidden tech only someone in his bloodline could unlock. Nova pressed her hand to the engine. Suddenly, a voice spoke. It was Langston's voice, recorded years ago. If you're hearing this, Nova, they found him, your brother. I couldn't save him, but maybe you can. That Iris engine will connect your minds. His code matches yours. Raina's eyes widened. You're the failsafe. You're the only one who can reach him. They crashed through Langtet's rooftop seconds later. Alarms blared. Security bots swarmed, but Raina fought them off. Nova ran. She followed the signal deep into the lab. At last, she found him, her brother, standing in the center of the room. Energy pulsed from him, breaking machines apart. Scientists ran in fear. He turned when he saw her. His eyes flickered. Nova didn't speak. She just stepped forward and opened her hand. That Iris engine floated toward him, glowing with warmth. Suddenly he stopped. The air stilled. He reached for it. Then everything around them froze. In that silent moment, Nova saw inside his mind. Pain, fear, loneliness, questions with no answers. And then, her voice. You're not alone, Nova whispered. You're my family. Outside, the power grid began to collapse. Langtet's AI went dark. One by one, the screens turned off. Inside, the energy around Nova's brother faded. He collapsed into her arms like a sleeping child. The machine stopped. Project Stays ENTRY was over. Later, Nova stood before a quiet council. The truth had come out. Langston had hidden a second Heir, a child born from a secret experiment gone wrong. But in the end, it was Nova who had inherited not just his tech, but his strength, his kindness, and his fight for freedom. Langtet was shut down. The corrupt board removed. And Nova, she became head of the new Global Ethics Division, not because of money, but because she saved her brother and stopped a war before it began. Final scene. Nova and her brother stood on a balcony, watching the sunrise over Neo Eden. He looked up at her. Do I have a name? He asked softly. Nova smiled. Yeah, she said. You do now. Your name is Hope.